This is a Founding Media podcast.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Great Society podcast. I'm your host, Constance Dykhuizen. My guest this week is Lila Igram, the founder and director of ConnectHer.
Hello.
Welcome, Lila.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to talk to you today because you're one of my favorite people and dear friends. So first I wanted to ask you, you were a stay-at-home mom for a long time, and then you decided to found ConnectHer. What kind of made you think that you could do something like that? What made you want to be the person to start this organization?
I'm actually really glad you asked that question because I think about it all the time. Definitely being a stay-at-home mom was like my first passion, as you know. Like, I just loved everything about it. But I also tried to, just keep up on industry trends and what was happening in the world. So I literally read every single issue of Fast Company magazine. And I just saw all those stories about social entrepreneurs and the work that they're doing around the world. But I tend to get obsessed and focus 100% on what I'm doing at the time. So I really, was very obsessed with the kids and just, what their needs were. And so it was really hard for me to do other projects on the side. But then once they got older, I feel just being a stay-at-home mom and keeping up on industry trends really, I call, entrepreneurship the great equalizer, because I feel like you can step into it at any point in your life and really just excel at it. And so, I think I gained a lot of skills by being a stay-at-home mom, and I think it was just a very easy transition to go from that to starting up a nonprofit.
That's interesting. I don't hear that a lot. Can you tell me a little bit about ConnectHer and what a crowdfunding platform is?
Yeah. So we launched ConnectHer in the summer of 2011 as a crowdfunding platform, which basically we would identify women in the developing world and in communities that needed support, and identify just high-powered women and get a crowd together to invest in their project. So crowdfunding is very challenging, as probably a lot of people know who are kind of in that industry. You really have to have a crowd. So we've built up a kind of a network and a crowd, like a ConnectHer community that is working to fund, we're trying to get to a point where we're funding one project a month. And so it's just basically we'll have challenges where we'll get the women that we're trying to, get funding for. We'll have them participate. We'll have our ConnectHer community participate. And, you just have to be innovative and creative to get things funded.
Can you give me an example of a project that you funded?
Yeah. So one really cool project that we funded recently actually was inspired by one of the films from a film festival that we run. And maybe we'll talk a little bit about that later. But we got in a film from a student in Bangladesh about a woman who was a former sex worker. And she is now providing education for the children of sex workers because she saw a need. She saw that there are so many of these children who are just in the streets and have no opportunities. And, because she has a background, she basically, brought in as many kids as possible and is now providing education in a safe home and safe environment for them so that they can excel. And so that's one of the projects that we're kind of continually funding because we're actually helping, her with the education.
Paying the rent and things like that.
Needs, but also paying the rent. And so it's been really awesome because she just recently got to move from a 3-bedroom, really rundown apartment to a 9-bedroom apartment for her and the 40 kids. And now the girls and boys each have their separate rooms. Before they were just all huddled together. And so they're like so excited about it.
Does your your community of people, do they get excited when they see results like that? Like, do they stick with you through?
Absolutely. We literally, we focus so much on our current, our current community, that, one of the challenges is to bring in new people into the community, but we rarely have someone drop off. So that's been really awesome.
And you fund only women and only local leaders. So tell me why you choose to do that.
Yeah. So have you ever heard, there's this phrase that often people say, like, we're giving a voice to the voiceless. And we don't ever say, we really try not to say that because everyone has a voice.
Yeah, I hate that personally. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, like, everyone has a voice. Not everyone has a platform, and so and I heard a recent, I wish I could, recognize the person who made the quote, but they're like, people have a voice. All we need to do is pass the mic. And so that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to pass the mic. We're like, okay, let's, identify women community leaders who are from the communities that they're serving. And invest in their projects because they have a vested interest in making sure their community prospers. They have when their voices are amplified, they can do amazing things in their communities. They understand the culture. They understand the community. They really have a great understanding of their locality. And so that's, one of the reasons why we choose to only kind of focus on women who are from the communities that they serve. And then obviously it's known that women invest into their, they invest into their whole communities. Whereas, men sometimes don't do that. But it's kind of, unfortunate in a way where you hear, women are the last person to eat in their family, because they want to make sure everyone else eats first, and even sometimes, people from outside of the family. And so, just women have this tendency to really give back, and it's proven, and that's another reason why we choose to invest in women and local leaders.
Okay. Kind of pivoting from that, you also decided to take on the challenge of starting a film festival. I have the privilege of being a semifinalist judge, and I've gotten to see so many of the films. But can you tell me a little bit about the Girls Impact the World Film Festival and why you chose to do that in addition to the crowdfunding platform?
Yeah, and I always love your feedback. You're so amazing, Constance. Yeah.
Thank you, Lila. That's why I like having you here.
So in addition to the crowdfunding and investing in the projects and investing in women, local leaders, we really wanted to expand our reach. And so just trying to think about how, what was a way to expand this reach? What is a way to create more exposure about global women's issues? And so, an idea that came up was to create a film festival where students could submit films for scholarship prizes.
High school and college
High school
students.
and undergraduate students can submit films, 3 to 6 minute films on issues related to advancing women and girls. And I feel like that also, fits our kind of vision to pass the mic as well, because, you're getting stories about gender inequality from Bangladesh made by Bangladeshi students. From, we got in a film about a refugee student from Zimbabwe, made by a student from Zimbabwe. So we've been getting in all of these stories about these critical issues. Sometimes they're heartwarming, sometimes they're heartbreaking, sometimes they have a solution, sometimes they're just creating awareness. But the reach that they're having within our community and outside of the ConnectHer community has been amazing. We got in films from 42 countries this year. Yeah. Which is last year we got in films from 20 countries. This year we got in films from 42 countries. So it's just, I think people are hungry for stories that they can't hear elsewhere, and, stories that are authentic and that are,
Well, and I really love them because they're from the perspective of students, which a lot of times I don't get to hear stories from the perspective of a high school student in Zimbabwe or Bangladesh. And so to be able to hear them talk about their communities, you get to hear a whole nother perspective that maybe the media isn't talking about or that stories aren't traditionally written about. So it always opens my eyes to issues I didn't even know existed. And
yeah, exactly. Like, I think it was 2 years ago, we had like I'm not going to say his name, but like a judge who is very well known in the film industry. And he, his comments were like, one of the comments on one of the films was just like, I had no idea that this was even happening. And so I think that is very cool that it brings to light a lot of stories that you wouldn't think about or that you don't even know, that it's happening around the world.
And so these films kind of, what I like about it too is these films become a vehicle for change for a lot of these student filmmakers. So can you tell me a story perhaps of a filmmaker who has won or who hasn't won, who's gone on to take their film places?
Yeah. So we have this phrase, turning students into filmmakers and filmmakers into activists. And that, and, it's not just a film festival where we want, the student to make the film and then just submit it and then it just sits in a gallery and nothing happens after that. We actually really encourage the students to take action and, keep pursuing whatever issue that they're talking about. We had a young woman submit a film. Her name is Sarah Jahan Khan, and her film is called Harvesting Hope. And it was about, she submitted actually 2 films, like 2 separate years, but the first one was called Harvesting Hope, and it was about cotton pickers in Pakistan. And, all of the pesticides, and it was all women. Women get relegated to picking the cotton, and the cotton's laden with pesticides, and the women get health issues from it. They use all of their disposable income on, curing the problem. They, and then they can't send their kids to school because of that. And so she took her film and she screened it at an Asian development bank. She screened it at other film festivals. She took it and showed it to judges in South Asia, and a lot of high-level people who are policymakers. And she said she got such a great reaction from it. And even some of the judges were like, we're actually gonna look into this issue and change policy because of this short, 5-minute film.
That's amazing. Sarah's amazing.
And that was her first film.
Yeah, she always inspires me so much whenever I hear her speak or whenever I see her films.
Yeah, so many incredible students. That's just one story, but there's so many, incredible students. They're based on, inspired by one of the films, we created a Girls Global Education Fund that's now providing scholarships to several girls in South Asia. I mean, there's just, that's what it's about. It's really about, the impact that these films can have.
That's beautiful. Thanks.
Thank you.
One of the things I love about you and going to events that you plan are just like the mix of people. You have students from Pakistan, you have high school students from Oakland, you have people from all over the world, but also you have this singular ability to connect to celebrities that I find to be amazing. One time I was at a party with Lila and we were the guest of a Saudi royal at the time. And we were just sitting there, just kind of standing around looking at people. And Lila looks at me and goes, "Oh, look, there's Biz Stone, the founder of Twitter. Let's go talk to him." And then we proceed to go over and talk to Biz Stone. It terrifies me. Sometimes I never know what's gonna happen with Lila. But what kind of gives you that ability to connect to people no matter who they are, whether they're a student from a rural village or just going up to a party talking to Biz Stone? Like, what kind of gives you that desire or that ability to do so? Because I feel like that's rare.
Well, I mean, I feel like, we have this vision and mission of elevating the status of women and girls around the world, advancing women and girls, uplifting the voices of women and girls around the world. So when you're so dedicated to that vision, I think there's really no fear factor. Mm-hmm. You're just you're trying to get goal. And so, when you have something that you're passionate about, I feel like it's very easy to express it to anyone, whether they're, a student or anyone who can, complement your work in any way, who you can benefit, people who can benefit you. I think that it's just, almost like a duty to try to talk to people who would be aligned and who would have some value to add, or if we would have value to add to them. And so I just am not not
shy.
No, it's not that I'm not shy. It's like with celebrities they're, celebrities are people. And, they're, before they were a celebrity, they weren't a celebrity. And so, I think it's just, people are very approachable and very interested and willing to listen now. Like a lot of people are very busy. So, we might have people who are just like, this person can't participate at this time or whatever. But yeah, I think it's just, it's all about shared values.
Can you tell me some of the judges that you have or have had in the past? I think it's a really impressive panel of people you've put together.
Yeah. So we're going on about 5 years of partnership with Ian Somerhalder and Nikki Reed, who, as you know, are two of our main partners and judges. Eloise DeJoria,
who I get to work with.
Yes, who you get to work with, who has been fantastic and a huge, continuing supporter. And she's just so, she's so much more involved than just as a judge. She's really interested in seeing the growth of the filmmakers and the growth of the festival and organization. So she's been amazing. We had two Nobel Peace Prize winners who have been judges in the past. They're not current judges right now, but they have been judges in the past. Christy Turlington Burns has been a judge. Lema Bowie was one of them. And I
loved her. I got to meet her, and she's an incredible presence and speaker. And
she's just insanely powerful. And just every time I hear her tell a story, I'm just I'm enamored by her.
But that's what I think I love, is that you're bringing together stories from all over the world, from the very, very powerful, from people who are very privileged, from people who've run Nobel Peace Prizes, to people who maybe don't get to see a shred of that power, even in their homes or in their village or in their political system, wherever they are. And so I just really love that you're really creating that platform and elevating stories, no matter who they come from. I just think that that's a really rare ability and strength that you have, and I love being a part of it. So
thank you so much. It's just such a pleasure, and it's all of our partners, everyone involved is, just fantastic. And, our 2019 film festival is around the corner in April, and we're all super excited about that. And that's that's a way for us to convene all of these people, the filmmakers, the judges, some of the judges, the ones who can attend, and, our community of supporters.
What advice do you have for people, possibly stay-at-home moms, maybe students, somebody who wants to get involved kind of either in elevating stories, telling stories? What advice would you have for them? Subscribe to Fast Company, maybe, or I don't know.
So, one thing that I kind of try to live by is just, believe in yourself and believe in the people around you. You can't really achieve anything unless you believe that you can do it. So that's one of the things I often tell my kids. My kids think they can do anything, literally.
They do, and they have. They're amazing.
No, because you have to believe it. You have to believe it. You have to believe in them. It's just, I don't know if that's just the way I was born, or if you can program yourself that way, or train yourself to think that. But I think it's just really super important to believe it, to believe you can do anything.
That's great. Okay, my last question is this question I ask everyone. How do you define success for yourself, for ConnectHer, for the film festival? Is that something you think about? How do you evaluate yourself as good or bad or needs improvement? Because I feel like that's difficult to do sometimes in this space.
I think it's really difficult, definitely. And we actually have our 3-year strategic planning meeting coming up this summer. So I'm like really excited about that because we're going to get into like a lot of metrics and how we assess, success. Right now, we look at year-over-year growth. We look at growth of the film festival, growth of submissions, the impact that the films are having. We look at, with our projects, projects usually are broken down into $100 funds, let's say $35 funds education for one girl in Bangladesh. So we can track, kind of how many scholarships that we're able to provide and education so it's basic, like those types of basic metrics, but more can be done, obviously. And we're going to be meeting about that this summer as well.
From a personal or like from a gut perspective, how do you know that you're doing a good job? Or like, how do you think about yourself and your role? Because you're the founder, you're so close to it. Like, how do you think about yourself and your own development because you've had people around you, but a lot of times it's kind of you championing these causes in these films. So how do you?
Yeah, it is, but it's a team effort. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Like we have a great board of directors. We have great supporters. We have this giving group called ConnectHer Gems that are, our sustaining donors. We have amazing sponsors and a team. And so I think just the fact that we're growing every year, our revenues, I think, have been growing by 20% every year, which, we're not a for-profit, we're a nonprofit business, but nonprofits still need to function. They are businesses. Like if you can't grow, then you have a little bit of an issue. And so the fact that we're growing, the fact that we usually don't have any supporters who drop off. Mm-hmm. Usually we'll gain supporters.
You get them and you keep them.
We get them and we keep them. Like they're our main priority, like our beneficiaries and the people, our partners. I even like partners better as a word, like our partners all around the world. I mean, we just have like just a great network and group of people. So I feel like if I can, attain that, then that's success to me. The reason I think we have such a great community of supporters is not because of me. It's because of the work that we're doing. And for example, like when you hear a story about one of the films, one of our films that was submitted called Asma, about a 13-year-old girl in Bangladesh. And she was a tea seller. All she did was sell tea from morning to night. That was her job. That was what she was relegated to. She's a breadwinner for the family. Very hard to get out of that situation. And then even after that, she would, go home and do household chores. And because of that film, we had a bunch of donors come together and give us funds to start a Girls Global Education Fund. And now Asma is no longer selling tea. She's actually in school. And she's doing well in school. And this has so many implications. I mean, when girls go to school, they're less likely to get married early. They're more likely to, make, more money to support themselves. Like there's so many ripple effects from going to school. And so I think when like our team and our donors hear about these types of stories and the impact that they're having, it inspires them to like stay involved. So that, it really is about the work and the vision and, what we're able to accomplish together.
Well, thank you very much, Lila, for being here. You're one of my favorite people, and I really appreciated the opportunity to talk to you today.
Thank you so much. Same for me.